Hey guys, you're really going to enjoy this episode of the Grow Rogue podcast. I just talked to Hesom Parhizkar, and he owns a tech company in the financial services space. And I asked him about his best day as an entrepreneur and his worst day. And I'm telling you, if you have started a business, if you're a founder, or if you've been a part of a growing business, this is really going to resonate with you. So make sure you watch the whole thing because there's a ton of great takeaways.
Name is Hesom Parhizkar. Business, we call it AdvizorPro with a Z. We have evolved a little, but initially we started out as a prospecting database of registered financial advisors to allow our users to. The biggest thing is if you want to contact a financial advisor, not on the retail side, but think of if you're an asset manager, an ETF manager, a software vendor, you'll use our database to understand who you need to contact and then how you need to contact them.
All right. So what made you do that? Were you in the industry previously, or what was the
Sure.
nexus for the creation of this platform?
Sure. Yeah, I've been kind of in FinTech. I've been in this industry for about 2 decades now. Um, Kind of interesting story. So we actually have another product to market that other product. We're a very, very niche product. We needed to be very hyper focused, and essentially we didn't have such a big team, so we had to kind of be very efficient. So we built this product, AdvizorPro, which used to just be a Google sheet, and we have curated folks who in the industry that have certain licenses, this and that will fit our ICP, our ideal client profile. We were using that to sell their other product. When going to conferences and just telling people about it, they wanted to buy that Google sheet versus our other product because they had the exact same challenges we did. So that's kind of the birth of AdvizorPro.
As so many businesses have started as a Google sheet, right?
Yeah.
So that's cool, man. So zooming out a little bit, I mean, look, you seem like a really smart guy. We had a cool conversation a couple weeks ago. You probably could have done a lot of different things. Entrepreneurship, I like to tell people, it is the proverbial grass on the other side of the fence, where I think a lot of people will hop over and realize, like, holy crap, like this is hard, right? My life before doesn't seem so difficult comparatively. Now, you and I both believe, I assume you believe like I do, that the rewards and the benefits of being an entrepreneur far outweigh the alternative. In a lot, it can, right?
Yeah.
What brought you over to this side, right? I mean, were you doing something else? Were you always a startup guy? I mean, what started that?
Yeah. So interesting. For the last couple of years, I held leadership positions in different size startups. Some very, very small. Some more established. Some VC backed, PE backed. I mean, this is interesting. So I'm a technology guy, right? Like my biggest tool belt is technology. But the last few years, probably the last decade, I've been pulled into non-technology things in the various organizations to a point that there was one startup that I was with. We pivoted the company due to my strategy. And then as kind of further on my career, I was very integral into the business, and I don't say calling shots, but can bring a lot of good ideas to the table, which were implemented by the business, which did very, very well. So for me, it was like, look, I know technology, I know product very, very well. Now I know kind of the business side of it. Why should I work for someone? Why should I work for someone? Is this something that we could do kind of ourselves now? So that's what kind of got me into this mode. Honestly, I was kind of doing both at the same time. This wasn't what I didn't do. What a lot of other entrepreneurs do, which is cut and say, "Hey, I quit my full-time job. I'm going to do this." I kind of did both. I kind of straddled both. So did that until the point that revenue was to a point that I could come on and kind of be a full-time member versus just behind the scenes.
No, that's a smart path, right? I mean, some people will call that sort of call it a side hustle, right? Where it's like you've got the thing that pays the bills, and then you have this project on the side, whether you're part of another organization is in a small role or you're starting it on your own, kind of bootstrapping, until such a time when that like crosses over. And I'm actually really sensitive to this, right? Number one, I did something really similar, right? I was working for a marketing agency, and then I started taking on like some really small projects on the side. And there was kind of that point where it was like, hey, I could probably just make more money if I just did that, right? And I'm really sensitive to it because now as like a dad, right? I've got my wife and I have 2 kids. If I was starting something now, I would have to be way more considerate about, the lifestyle risks and potential downgrades you have when you make that jump, right? Yeah. Because I mean, at the time, it wasn't a big deal to quit my job and focus on, take the pay cut for a little while because I wasn't making a whole lot of money anyway, right? I was barely scratching by. And when I talk to friends who are like, yeah, I'm thinking about starting a business, and I'm like, how much you making at your day job? Like you're probably going to take like $100K pay cut like your first year. It's just really difficult to not have to do that. So I'm really sensitive to the idea of, let's start something on the side until it makes sense. So that's how you got started. So you guys had users before you kind of went full time into that. How'd you get that first kind of chunk of users?
Sure. It was just, we started building the product March of 2020, right when the world shut down.
Yeah.
March or April 2020. So by that December, we had an MVP. We had a product. Right, it was working. At that point, we just started talking to folks, just calling essentially folks that we had met at conferences. Like, hey, you mentioned you like this. Here is our initial version. In this industry of what we do, this is also kind of helpful. There's a couple competitors. There's not too many competitors, but some of these competitors have been around a really long time, and they've been doing so well that innovation is gone.
Right.
So younger company, we're innovative, we listen to our clients. So just initially just showing them what we had built, like on the web versus what competitors had on the web. I mean, quotes, people are like, oh, you guys are Windows versus DOS. Again, super OG reference here, but or analogy here, but it's shocking that won us deals just because we had a modern interface. So yeah, those are kind of the first. We essentially reached back to folks who initially said months ago, "Hey, can I buy this?"
Right. Okay. Yeah. And look, you're speaking to the choir. You're preaching to the choir here. Because and this is no offense to my friends and clients in the advisor space, but like it was certainly one that I think adapted to, we'll say, digital, modern digital life the slowest, right? Maybe not the slowest of all the industries, but I do remember, especially in the kind of that 2010s, very end of the 2010s, it was like there was a lot of waking up to the fact that, like, man, we really haven't upgraded our systems. We are still operating in a very 20th century methodology from a digital standpoint and from just an adoption of technology. We came at this obviously from the marketing side of things, and so we were able to have those conversations then. Man, these were tough conversations to have in like the late 2000s, early 2010s. It was kind of seen as like, hey, this stuff's a fad, right? All this, we're going to go back to the old ways eventually. So that resonates, right? And I think it'll resonate with a lot of people that are listening and watching this. So what did you guys, okay, so we always talk about that first tranche of users, right? That's how we get going. What about kind of that phase 2 when you guys realize, okay, we got to scale now? What was the strategy for, and you can talk about internal and external, right? Because I'm sure there's a development piece of this, right? What was the strategy for going from good to, hey, we really got something here that we can grow and scale?
Yeah, I kind of answer this from both angles. So we knew sales cycles are pretty low. So we knew that there was something here. Again, people wanted it. And this is where it is difficult as a smaller company that's resource constrained. Like, can we do everything that everyone says, right? So we get a couple of clients. We had one sales guy, one account executive. He was kind of bombarded, so we hired another account executive, getting him trained up, kept a kind of sign up clients, and then we were being very, very picky about, like, we wanted feedback from clients. Again, we wanted feedback. Hey, you should add this feature. You should do this. You should do that. It was about now, like, okay, how do we tackle that? Because we can't say yes to everyone. And if we don't say yes, will they leave us? Will they not leave us? So at that point, starting to scale the engineering team. But again, we're a bootstrap company, so it's not like we just had a blank check. I could just go hire 10 devs off the street really easily. So it was about being very, very efficient and making a lot of tough decisions. Like, hey, we have 3 things that we're being asked to do that's going to kind of get us to the next point. Do we need it 1 month? Is 6 months? And just kind of talking to my partner and saying, hey, we can do this. We may need to scale up a developer here or there. It's going to cost this. It's a gut check. Like, hey, can we, if we build it, will they buy? And this isn't just like, hey, if they don't buy, oh, well, it's don't buy. We just spent thousands of dollars. So it was kind of gut check. We would do some things. We would not do some things. And one thing that was interesting, so we were getting clients. We typically at that point had 1-year deals. So we're at, say, 6 to 9 months within some clients' deals. And then we're like, we haven't talked to this client. We haven't talked to this client because we're so focused on bringing in new clients. So then we had to hire a CSM, someone to essentially not sales, but work on, hey, you guys are using the software. How's it going? Do you have any support issues? This and that. So that was another kind of added cost that, like, in my mind, it was like, yeah, we're just going to sell software and people are just going to love it and renew. It doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm. Now, I have certainly experienced that, not necessarily in our, this is one where I'm not necessarily drawing experience from my own business, but we've seen this on behalf of a lot of our clients who are in software, is that it's such a massive strain on resources. Number one, just to keep the product working well, right? Like just baseline, right? Like just keep it running, right? Dealing with all like support issues and bugs and all the stuff. And then it's this huge strain on like, well, we got to keep making this thing better too, right? We can't just sit back because, the market is always changing. We always need to be adapting. So much of our time and attention goes to the product. And of course, if you come at it from, you certainly seem like you're coming at it from a product first perspective, where you're like, this thing is so good. Why don't you all just see how valuable this is, right? It should sell itself. It just doesn't work that way. Sounds like you really experienced that firsthand.
Yeah. It's mind boggling because again, we're a data company, right? We're a data company. We have a really nice user interface on top of the data. As of right now, as of a couple of years ago, we have the best data in the industry. And then it's just sometimes we lose deals, prospects to competitors because of something in my head very meaningless. Again, maybe very meaningful to the client or to the prospect, but meaningless to me. And we're like, don't you want the best data? Yeah, but I like this purple button here that this competitor has. I'm like, well, you understand that purple, that module, this purple module you're talking about, if you put garbage in, you get garbage out. Well, still, I like the purple module. So it's just sometimes it's just like so frustrating. And I'm sometimes extracted from this, right? I can't be on every single sales call. I can't be at every single CSM call. So I'm extracted. So then when I read the notes in the CRM, I'm like, well, what's going on here? Yeah, the prospect really wanted this. I was like, well, we have this. It's just, I wasn't, one thing that about me, like I'm so heads down, I'm not very, how's that public? I don't do a very good job marketing the dev team. Like we have a ton of features. I don't sit here and do hoopla on every feature. I don't do that internally or external. So then we lose a prospect for a module and we've had it for 6 months. It's just the education, it wasn't there internally. And it kind of falls back on me.
Is that one of those things you feel like is marketing's job in a software environment, right? Where it's like, yes, it's about getting new customers, but you kind of have, you probably got some SDRs and you probably got an outbound process and all that kind of stuff. But there's so much work from that needs to be done from marketing just to educate your existing clients on the platform. Because it's not like, I mean, it's not like selling cars, right? Where it's like
Correct.
80% of the value is what happens when you turn it on and you're behind the wheel, right? Probably 80% of the value of a good software product are things that are not immediately visible, right? When you log in. So how much of that do you feel like is the job of marketing just to educate existing clients?
Yeah, I mean, I've at past organizations, I had this. It's called product marketing. That the focus for this team, this individual, was they didn't care about sales. They didn't care about this. They cared about existing client base and also internal education. I could count on my probably two hands of clients that we have lost because we didn't have this data or this feature. And then after the fact, again, in hindsight, I'm like, well, we had this 6 months ago. I worked on it during Christmas.
Yeah.
I didn't really, again, so we're kind of more in a cadence. Again, we're a smaller team, so we now have a dedicated marketing person. So a lot of it, I would say 80% of his job is more on the, hey, let's try to get new clients, this and that. 20 to 30% right now is really promoting on a monthly basis, like, hey, what we have done is it's not just, hey, we created a new button to create an export, right? It's the use case.
Exactly.
Hey, AdvizorPro has a new feature that is going to help you, our clients, make more money, set more meetings, whatever their goal is, right? That's what is difficult. Like I could tell people all day long, hey, how this module works. You put data in it and it formats it. That's great. How does it help our end user? That's where the effort comes in. And sometimes I'm not equipped in. People ask me, like, hey, tell me how our clients are going to use this. I'm like, I don't know. I know it's very useful, but I just don't know in their internal workflow, if they're trying to attach their CRM or whatever it is, how useful it is.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, so folks, if you're watching this, like, to me, this is the very actionable takeaway from this. It's that reorient your focus on what marketing is, especially if your product or if your business is an ongoing relationship or a service offering that you provide. For example, if it's a one-time delivery, sure, it makes sense for your marketing to be focused on maybe lead generation and lead nurturing to close a deal, right? And then maybe you've got some ongoing marketing that is to generate, cross sales and upsells. But if you're in a software space, or if you're in a space, I mean, even like the financial advisors themselves, right, where that client can leave anytime. Your job from marketing is probably better focused on existing clients, because the retention of those clients, how much business they actually do with you, right? Because I imagine you guys have different tiers and upgrades that a client can add on to their existing service, right? There's value there. There's probably more money sitting in your existing client list than you could possibly find out in the open market in the same amount of time frame, for sure. So that's what I would say is like a quick takeaway for those watching this. But I appreciate you kind of sharing that experience there.
Yeah, I would. So I used to work for a couple RAs in my past as well. So I know it from that side. There's in this industry. I mean, this RA industry is booming. It's booming. There's a lot of kind of money. There's a lot of clients, and what's happening with this fee compression. And as money is inherited down, that your parents, your grandparents might love this financial advisor who's been there for years and years. As money is kind of trickled down to others are expecting different values. Right. So what we would lose families, like when we hear someone, again, this sounds very, very morbid, but when we hear someone's has passed, and now it comes down to the kids, and let's say we had a relationship with the kids, that's great, but then we're very nervous about it because, again, that's a retention thing. The financial advisor down the street may have some mobile app. Right. We don't have a mobile app, and it doesn't matter. Again, at the end of the day, the stock market's a stock market, right? You invest in X, Y, Z. Again, folks have different themes, this and that, but like I said earlier, like the UX, like if my financial advisor doesn't have an app and the one down the street has an app, I could text them. I probably going to go over here because that's how I do business versus
Right.
the 4 times a year I go in, sit down, suit it up versus I just want instant gratification that, hey, my financial advisor is there. I don't have to physically talk to him.
Yeah.
So it's regardless of the software, services, this and that, it's evolve. It has your servicing has to evolve unless it's a one-time payment. If I pay whoever one time, but we're asking folks to pay us thousands of dollars yearly, we can't be stagnant.
I completely agree, and I think this comes down to understanding your audience, right, and what's really important to them. If you think that what's important to Joe because his dad was a client of yours, you're just mistaken, right? Because I mean, what's important to Joe and Joe's dad could be very different, right? And what's important to Sally down the street or what's important to Joseph up the road, their needs and wants are not the same, and you can't expect that they're all going to react in the same way to the same things. That's why you talk about product marketing, and I think this does apply to advisors and entrepreneurs in a lot of different spaces, right? It's being able to effectively tell a story of, this feature or this aspect of our service or this value add that we offer in a lot of different ways. So there's plenty of awareness there. I was on a call with a client the other day, and we kind of tripped over this phrase that I really love, and I want to keep this. I want to use this a bunch, but we talk a lot about being in the right place at the right time, right? When it comes to marketing. Well, in the world we live in now, what that means is being in the right place all of the time, right? Mm-hmm. Because how can you figure out exactly the right place, the right time? Everybody's timing is different, and everybody's, the context through which they are looking at your content or they're being exposed to your product or your brand. We can't know that. So you've got to be in the right place all the dang time. You've got to be telling these messages and giving this messaging in a lot of different ways all the time. Yeah. I want to ask, this is a new fun question I've been asking. What was your worst day as an entrepreneur?
Funny. I mean, it's not about losing a client. It's not about winning a client or whatever it is. One thing that I didn't anticipate kind of getting into what I'm doing today is, I don't want to say the noise. Like, again, at the end of the day, I mean, being an entrepreneur, you got to stay focused. I would say one of the worst days is, this sounds cliche or stupid, but like moving offices. Like moving offices. We had a lease down the street. We had a new lease. We had to move offices. And in my past, I had folks coordinating that for me. We had paid people to coordinate the move, this and that. We had movers, this, that. Doesn't happen. No. So we had to be out on the 28th. We had to be in first. If not, we lose a deposit. So coordinating that, and it's very difficult to ask your teammates, hey, can you go above and beyond, buy some pizza or whatever, because it kind of falls on your shoulder. On top of that, then you have, so again, being very, very busy doing that, making sure, I mean, any minute we're down, like the team is down, to me, that's revenue out the door. We can't do demos because our internet or whatever it is. So making sure that every team member is comfortable in the new surroundings, but also understanding the initiatives. I can't just say, okay, yeah, for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be dealing with the office move. Yeah. Forget about the clients. So it was, I just remember the day we moved in, it was supposed to be like super fun, but then it's like just the stress. And like, I'm a product guy. I'm a tech guy. Like, I don't like, but we have to do it. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, that's what I hear a lot. Again, going back to what we were talking about, like, folks who they have maybe their experiences like in working with larger firms, right? And there's just a lot more resources that are available. Mm-hmm. And when you're the guy and when it's a small team, yeah, man, like if a pipe explodes in the middle of the night, there's nobody else to deal with it
Correct.
but you, right?
Yep.
And that is there's a tremendous amount of pressure and I think stress that as entrepreneurs, like we either come to grips with and figure out how to deal with and how to manage, or it'll just eat you alive, right? It'll just destroy you. So, all right, so that's really helpful. So, tell me about your best day as an entrepreneur.
But it's funny. That one's more difficult. I would say, I mean, where we are today, again, it's hard. People focus on the losses. Right? I mean, again, this whole, you talk about reviews or whatever. There's not a lot of positive reviews. If you're pissed off, you set a review. If you're happy, you don't put a review. So again, that's how our human mindset works. I would say one of the most positive, like something that's like one of the huge wins for me. It's just a validation. The validation, and it's very tactical. Like we had a long time client of ours, one of our early client of ours, the champion. It's been behind us the whole way. He left his job on Friday. I saw it on LinkedIn. And I was like, oh wow, he left. Like this kind of not good. 48 hours later, I get a text message. Hey, I want to bring you into my new organization. So like that's validation. And to me, that's like, hey, yeah, we're doing something right. We're doing something right. That was kind of a again, some recency bias here, but that was one of the highs for me.
Man, you're speaking to my soul on that one. I think, when this is your baby, right? Like you've made this thing. When other people say that, yeah, that's worth me spending money on.
Yep.
It's, yes, they're buying the product, but like you get this, they're buying you. Even if they don't know that it's you, like even if they never have an actual conversation with you, like you made that thing. And again, even if you got a team of devs and you didn't even put, you didn't put a line of code in there, but it's like your vision, they're buying into you. So yeah, the validation, it's such a drug, right? It's such like an addiction that we get. And maybe maybe it's a mental illness, maybe it's just me, but like it's, you can't extricate yourself from the product. At least I haven't figured out how to do it. Maybe there's a healthier way, but it's that validation of like, hey, I made something that is genuinely useful and valuable, and other people are spending money to get it, which is awesome.
It's definitely extracting yourself, because again, it could lead you down to dark holes. You don't extract yourself, right? Like, we had this client cancel, or hey, the support issue came in, and it hurts sometimes. So it's like you gotta kind of understand that, hey, we're running a business. Things will happen. Right. Things will happen. I don't care how many developers I have. I don't care how many QA engineers. Things are going to slip through the cracks, right? It's how you kind of approach that, right? It's how you. I mean, if I let each one of these just kind of just poke a hole in me, I'll be gone in a few months. But it's just coming back and say, hey, this happened. And mentally, I don't want this to happen again. What can I do so it won't happen again?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, Hesom, I mean, you guys are ripping and roaring. You guys are growing. What's next? What's the future look like? Do some vision casting for me. Tell me what you guys are trying to build now.
Sure. This has kind of been topic lately, but we started out financial advisors. We got into the kind of insurance agents, and we do data very well. Our platform is very innovative. So it's like, okay, let's kind of broaden ourselves. Let's get into different spaces. Bank and trust, individuals, companies. We talk about endowments and foundations. So our vision is, if you want to prospect financial service professionals, you come to us. You don't come to us for X and a competitor to Y. You come to us and we do the full gamut. So we're doing a lot of stuff right now in the back end, front end, the team, education, to get to a point that in the next few months that our white space is this, and the next our white space is this. and there's a lot that comes with that. So that's the grand vision.
I love it, man. Yeah, that's our job as entrepreneurs before anything else, is to cast a vision that people get excited to be behind, whether that's our team, whether that's clients, or just the broader marketplace. So I love to hear that. So thanks for sharing that. Hesom, how can people connect with you, learn more about you, and follow what you guys are doing with AdvizorPro?
Sure. I would say, I would say LinkedIn's probably the best spot. I'm fairly active there. Again, with our marketing efforts, we're trying to just keep folks informed. One of the biggest hindrance of our growth is people don't know about us. Like when people find out about us, they want to come to us. It's just people just don't know. It's just mind-boggling. We go to conferences, industry conferences, and they're like, "Oh, we never heard of you." I'm like, "We're spending so much ad dollars here. I mean, we may get a billboard, but it's just folks knowing about us, the referrals, and just getting, again, I would say catching folks' attention on LinkedIn has helped. Just being active on LinkedIn has helped.
That's great. Well, and guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, we're going to have the links to their website and to Hesom on LinkedIn as well. So you go make sure you visit there and connect with him. Hesom, we really appreciate the time you've taken today. Love talking to other entrepreneurs. Love talking to my tech entrepreneur friends. Right? It's a difficult task you've taken on, but I'm glad that you're doing it. The market needs it, so keep it up, man.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, it was fun.